The operating room clock read 3:42 a.m. A trauma patient lay on the table, stable, but only barely. Inside the surgical conference suite next door, 6 specialists argued in rising voices. Cardiology blamed neurology. Neurology blamed anesthesiology. Lab results contradicted imaging scans. The patient's blood oxygen was crashing without explanation. The hospital's top experts, decorated, published, internationally trained, were running out of answers. One wrong decision would cost a life. In the hallway outside, pushing a stainless steel food cart, stood a middle-aged cafeteria worker wearing a hairnet and plastic gloves. No one inside that room knew he had once published research in internal medicine. His name was Dr. Adrian Keller. Once. Before the divorce. Before the malpractice lawsuit that wasn't his fault, but ended his hospital career anyway. Before his license expired during the years he spent caring for his mother through advanced Parkinson's. Medicine had been his calling. Internal diagnostics, specifically. He had a rare talent for identifying patterns and symptoms others overlooked. But when legal battles drained his savings and grief drained his confidence, the hospital he had given 15 years to quietly moved on. He needed steady income. So he accepted the only job available quickly. Night cafeteria attendant. He reheated soup instead of reviewing charts. He sanitized counters instead of examining patients. Doctors walked past him discussing cases he silently solved in his head. No one asked? That night, a 28-year-old woman was admitted after collapsing at home. Vitals unstable. Oxygen low. Blood pressure fluctuating. CT scans, inconclusive. Cardiac enzymes, borderline. Brain imaging, normal. She wasn't responding predictably to treatment. The surgical team debated intubation. A neurologist suspected a rare seizure disorder. A cardiologist insisted it was arrhythmic shock. Time was bleeding away. Adrian was refilling coffee in the conference lounge when he heard 3 words that froze him. Metabolic acidosis worsening. He paused. Then another phrase. Unexplained muscle rigidity. His pulse quickened. He moved closer, not intruding, just listening. They were chasing symptoms, but ignoring the pattern. Hospital hierarchy is rigid. A cafeteria worker does not interrupt a surgical review. Ever. Adrian stared at the swinging conference door. He thought about the oath he once took. About the nights he spent studying rare syndromes. About the fact that he might be wrong, and humiliated. But if he was right. He knocked. The room fell silent. A surgeon frowned. We're in consultation. Adrian spoke carefully. I'm sorry to interrupt. But has anyone ruled out malignant hyperthermia triggered by an undiagnosed metabolic disorder? Blank stares. Then irritation. That's anesthetic-induced. Someone snapped. Usually. Adrian agreed calmly. But spontaneous variants exist. Her muscle rigidity, acidosis, and oxygen instability fit. Check creatine kinase levels and core temperature trend over the last 40 minutes. A resident pulled up the chart. Temperature, climbing steadily. Creatine kinase, spiking. The room shifted. Adrian stepped just inside the doorway, never fully entering. If it's hypermetabolic crisis, intubation alone won't solve it. You'll need dantrolene immediately. And aggressive cooling. The anesthesiologist whispered. We didn't even consider that. Because it was rare. Because it didn't fit neatly into one specialty. Because everyone was protecting their own domain. The lead surgeon made the call. Administer dantrolene. Now. Within minutes, oxygen stabilized. Muscle rigidity reduced. Acidosis began correcting. The crisis slowed. A life pivoted back toward survival. The room that had been tense with blame grew quiet with realization. Someone finally asked, Who are you? Adrian hesitated. I used to work in diagnostics. That was all he said. Hospital administration reviewed the incident the next morning. Security footage confirmed he hadn't accessed restricted records. He had simply listened. And recognized a pattern. The patient survived. Without neurological damage. The surgical board requested a meeting with Adrian. He explained his history plainly, his research background, his mother's illness, the expired license he couldn't afford to renew during legal chaos. He did not ask for his old title back. He only said, "I couldn't stay silent." 2 months later, the hospital created a new interdisciplinary position, clinical pattern consultant, a role designed to bridge departments during complex cases. They funded his license reinstatement, covered continuing education, gave him structured authority without ego politics. On his first official day, he walked through the same cafeteria he once cleaned after closing. The staff applauded softly, not because he had risen, but because he had never acted small. A year later, the young woman whose life he helped save returned, healthy, smiling, carrying homemade cookies. She hugged him in the hallway. "You were the only one who saw what was happening." Adrian shook his head gently. They would have found it. But privately, he knew something deeper. They might have. Eventually. But medicine is a race against time. And sometimes the difference between tragedy and recovery is one person willing to speak when they technically have no right to. Final reflection. 6 specialists almost lost that patient. Not because they lack knowledge, but because specialization can fragment vision. The cafeteria worker saw the whole picture. Not because he wore a white coat, but because he never stopped thinking like a doctor, even when the world stopped calling him one. The next miracle in a hospital may not be the loudest voice in the operating room. It might be the quiet person refilling coffee, waiting, watching, remembering who they used to be.